When was the last time someone shattered your expectations? When someone shot past the finish line that you didn't even think they would make in the first place? For me, that was fairly recent, and it's been over the past couple of years with content creators, specifically the ones in Hollywood that have been making new content that pushes the bar so much higher than before. And with these rising skill levels, the expectations that everyone had set for them have only been getting broken day in and day out. Obviously, it's not every content creator, but it's definitely the big names. Like think people like Kai Cenat, I Show Speed, and yes, Obsession director Curry Barker. All three of even these specific people have done very big things in different ways in terms of celebrity culture. So today we're going to look into some of the ways Hollywood has dismissed and ignored these sorts of creators and how they had to claw their way out just to be noticed by everyone. And if possible, this could be a great new direction for creators in the space, especially later in their career. I'm Zard King 8U, and I'd wish you'd like, comment, and subscribe. Obsession is one of those movies that Hollywood probably hates.
But why? It made so much money.
The thing is with Hollywood, they're very set in their ways. What I mean is they'll prop certain stars up and they'll let others' careers just fade into oblivion because of all the inner politics that go on within Hollywood. Rather than keep someone up because of their skill, they'd keep someone up because of how much they appease and appeal to the higher ups in movie studios and things of the nature. That's why back in the day, I say back in the day, but this is really like 8 years ago, there was the whole Me Too movement, which honestly, it was great that happened. And that was the first step of many that needed to happen if we were going to cleanse Hollywood and make it more fair and just for everybody. Now, why specifically does Hollywood hate the movie Obsession? Well, in terms of money, they probably love it, right? But in terms of who made the movie, they probably hate it. See, if there's one thing Hollywood loves doing, it's actively suppressing and ignoring influencers when they make it big in the movie scene. And the thing about influencers is a lot of the time, they really just love film and they want to break into that medium. But think about how often people break into film from either TikTok, YouTube, or any other content solo focused projects. It doesn't really happen. And Hollywood has honestly done a lot to demean projects that do well in these sorts of situations. Just look at Markiplier's film Iron Lung, which in a lot of websites that would show the top grossing movie of the weekend, they were showing Iron Lung for the first couple of days. And afterwards, they started discrediting and removing them from many websites that would show how much money it had made out. What was very important about this was these big studios hated the fact that a movie that was financed by a content creator could do so well, because that shows that they didn't actually need these big studios in the first place. And if that's the case, then it'll signal to more content creators that they can actually just make and publish their own movies, and they could do really well. They just need a good story. That's what all you need at the end of the day for a movie. You don't need a fancy studio to back you. You just need to get a good story and a good way to tell that story. Damn, I'm cooking. Oh yeah. So I imagine when Obsession came out, and then also Backrooms also does fall into this category because it started from a content series, and the success of these two movies, you know, it's something that they probably didn't expect, which is why they had such an early slot in the summer. So if a couple of sketch comedy influencers make their own movie in a genre that Hollywood considers a big risk to pour a lot of money into, and they make an absurd amount of money off of it because of the story rather than the budget. I mean, Hollywood right now doesn't even know where to look for talent. We've seen so many new directors pop up who don't know what they're doing versus ones that do. And you can chalk it up to nepotism, but there are certain movies that have been coming out lately that when they drop, they just sort of fall flat and the audience has a hard time connecting with said film, which I think is very important because Gen Z right now is willing to go see movies compared to millennials. The thing is, they won't see movies they're not interested in. They're not going to care about Scary Movie 6. They're not going to care about White Chicks 2. They're not going to care about Scream if it doesn't align with their political values and the actors and actresses' political values who represent the movies. That's why a lot of quote unquote big Hollywood stars aren't really performing that well at the box office in these last couple of years. And it's more so been, well, Hollywood assumes it's like a toss of the dice, right? Throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks. But in reality, it's more so, can the general public get behind the message that the people playing these characters want to convey? And if Hollywood doesn't lock in right now, they're in trouble. Now, why wouldn't they? Of course they'd want to lock in. They'll make more money if they support all these new up and coming people and they actually look for the talent in the right spots. What could possibly be holding them back? Old white egos. Now, when I say old white egos, I mean they don't really know how to bridge the gap between the youth and the movie that they want to make for the youth. Why is that? Because they assume that the movies that work for them are going to work for everyone else. They assume that everyone wants to watch the same Marvel movie copy and pasted 17 times, and we'll be fine with that message that that movie conveys, even though we've already seen that story just retold through a different person's lens. There's an assumption that movies right now are the exact same as they've always been, which when back back in the day, I say back in the day, like 20 plus years. So from like the 50s to the late 2000s, when there was a certain trend with movies, they would pick up and they would create more movies that were very similar to that movie that was very popular. So then you saw multiple, not carbon fiber copies, but very similar projects to that original one to rechase that high so people can come back and rewatch that same movie. So it'd be one movie pioneering it and then like 7 or 8 really popular branches, not really spin-offs, but copycats of said original movie. So now there's been multiple times where a Hollywood executive will say, oh, nowadays streaming is taking away everyone's retention at the movies. And that's just not true. In reality, people are just going to what has more effort. What takes more effort? A movie where you cut CGI costs and editing, or a streamer who has multiple different shows planned out for a subathon that lasts 2 weeks? Of course, someone's going to go to the second one because not only can they tune in anytime they want for free, but there's also a lot more effort being put into the second project and a lot more thought into how to entertain people versus the first one, which is just creating a CGI slop, mangled mess of cheap cuts and tricks that don't really innovate anything. Oh, but Hollywood does invest in people. Just look at all these other types of people that they'd put their dollars into, and then the movie projects don't pop off because the content creators can't pull big names and big money. Okay, let's look at that for a second. Hollywood really liked Fred. Now, they tried to make several movies with Fred, but these movies didn't pop off. Why is that? On paper, Fred seems like the best to go, right, at the time. But when you actually look at the longevity of it, there were plenty of other channels that would have probably provided much better substance than Fred. Like if we're looking at OG YouTubers, what's stopping them from investing in people like Good Mythical Morning or Smosh? Nothing really. In fact, these different companies nowadays, they have made their brand more so focused on talk show content. And it's like, oh, well, that's just one example. They sure do love people, but look during COVID, when John Krasinski creates a YouTube show, the name of the show is called Some Good News. He's backed by multiple different people in Hollywood helping him edit this thing, helping him go through with it, following up during COVID. And in fact, they even land a show deal afterwards, but I don't remember like why it didn't go through, but they don't understand why that worked. And it's because it was very personable and a lot of people like personable content. So after Fred fails, Hollywood sort of takes a step back, and then you see TV shows pick up and they start getting different content creators together like Jake Paul, they get Tobuscus and all that, and they come with their own slew of problems. And these show studios end up distancing themselves from these content creators, which it makes sense. There's a lot of controversy to be had with certain people, but they're not really picking people based off of who would work best in a film production scene. They're most so picking people based off of their numbers and who's the biggest. That's why you see people like Logan Paul who gets a movie deal, which was a huge test for studios. This movie deal with Logan Paul when he did the movie The Thinning, and the movie doesn't do good, and then he's caught into controversy. So after all this controversy with Logan Paul, why would they keep this momentum going with content creators? It doesn't make sense. And that's why they sort of distance themselves again from content creators. But then again, let's look at how they were picking. They're picking the people with the highest numbers, not really vetting who would be the best fit for content. And there are content creators who did want to make good shows and good content movies for the general public, but Hollywood always actively ignored them. A good example of this is the show VGHS, which got picked up by Netflix in its later years. But when it first came out, it was on YouTube. And the show was very popular on YouTube, but a lot of people just couldn't see it for what it was and how good this show was because it was produced by people with YouTube channels, small actors. Only after the show started popping off in the later seasons did it start getting the recognition it deserved, and then it ended. And after years of it being over, Netflix later picked it up, and then it sort of hit a renaissance where everyone was watching VGHS because of how cool it was. So what would Obsession really look like if it wasn't with these small creators and barely known actors and actresses? So we'd probably see someone who is non-controversial, or at least not that controversial, where the controversy is very small. So we'd probably see if Hollywood had like a chance to cast these people as like content creators, they'd probably cast whoever has the highest numbers. So we'd probably see Kai Cenat, we'd probably see Matt Rife, we'd probably see someone like Charlie D'Amelio. Like it would just be random people that it wouldn't really make sense for them to be in the movie, but they would be there because they have the most numbers rather than their talent actually making it through. So it's like a weird twisted version of nepotism where instead of actually teaching a skill to someone, you're just going based off of the numbers that they've acquired through this other thing and hoping that it'll transfer well because they've sort of impressed you with what they've done with this other thing. So what does any of this have to do about Obsession at the end of the day? Well, let's talk about it. Obsession takes all these rules that are confined within Hollywood and it just smashes straight through them. It's the type of movie that carves its own path and carves its own path well for others to follow, but not in the way it leads others to make a one-to-one carbon fiber copy, but more so in a way that lets others branch out in their own ways creatively. If you chalk Obsession up to just a win for Curry Barker, that's completely wrong. You should chalk Obsession and Iron Lung and and backrooms, more so a clear path for content creators to start making their own movies that could sell well to the general public. But Zard, what makes Obsession so great? I'll tell you. So in Obsession, it has a really amazing plot that gets you hooked right from the beginning. You see Bear, he's over here in this diner and he's confessing his feelings about the one he loves to the one he loves. And what I can describe as single-handedly the most creepy conversation, or just like generally like this dude needs help. And you're like, oh, well, but no, he's practicing to give like a good confessional to friend Nikki who she doesn't know that he loves her. But then you have Ian over here on the side being like, nah, she's not gonna want this. No, she's gonna want this. No, she's not gonna want this. Oh my gosh, what are you talking about? You think that she actually likes crystals even though she talks about crystals? Nah, do not get her a crystal necklace. That's tacky. She's gonna hate that. It's like, oh geez, I wonder what Ian's stake in all this is. So at this point I was either like, okay, Ian either loves Nikki as well, or they're on the side doing their own thing and he's just a bad friend that doesn't want to tell Bear that these two are together and they've been together. So it was very clear that Ian was sabotaging Bear in this first scene. But Bear's talking about courting Nikki, okay? I'm not gonna lie, if someone was talking about courting someone else, I would not let them within a mile of the person they said they're courting. I wouldn't even let them be alone because I'm like, bro, what are you doing? Courting? What is this, the 1950s? And his chat GPT results were also not even that great. He says, how to woo a girl. What are we watching? Now, bro was really detached from reality at this point. But yeah, how Bear didn't notice all these signs that Ian and Nikki might be like together as an item, I don't know. Bro's only looking at Nikki and no one else in the friend group apparently. Because then you see in the first scene of all four of them together, the two, Nikki and Ian, are just having their own playful banter. And Bear's just kind of there like, Nikki's so funny. But she's only funny because she's having playful banter with Ian. And then Sarah's there trying to like talk to Bear. Sarah's the only one that's actually paying attention to Bear at the karaoke. And I wonder how many times Ian's given Bear bad advice for Bear not to notice. Like, come on, Bear. It's been 2 years. Pack it up. If Ian's such like a player, why is all his advice failing for you? It's time to put 2 and 2 together, dog. So we know a couple of things. Bear does not clean up after himself. His house is super messy. And we know that he leaves his pills lying around because his cat dies from the pills. And this sets off a whole chain of events of him wanting to get a win and clearly trying to satisfy that win with getting Nikki. The only catalyst that we see for Bear that gives him enough courage to sort of at least get in the position to confess his feelings to Nikki is his cat dying, which honestly is on him because he should know better than to leave Hills lying around with the cat to where it's accessible to the cat. It honestly showed how little Bear thought about others in tandem with himself and how sort of one-sided he was in his thinking. And this is only magnified by him thinking that the best possible time for him to confess his feelings to Nikki is in the middle of trivia night when they're going to get shots. What are we thinking, dog? What? So if she says no, are you even thinking about if she says no? Like where it's like, oh, well, now it's going to be an awkward ass trivia night. No, he doesn't think about that. He only cares about himself. No. So you know what? For this one point, I am on Ian's side with not confessing in the middle of trivia. You can confess on trivia night, just not in the middle of trivia night. Fuck shit up for everyone else. You gotta fuck up the vibes. Could you imagine how awkward it would have been if he would have confessed right there and she rejected him in the bar with everyone there? They would have gone back, oh, Bear, what's up? Oh, well, my cat died and Nikki rejected me. Yeah, but it's whatever. And I know Bear would have said that for a fact. I know he would have been like, oh yeah, Nikki rejected me and my cat died. He would have said that in that exact same order because that's just the type of person he is. He's a shitty person. And you're like, oh, how selfish can he be? Well, he goes to the crystal store to get crystals for Nikki. Doesn't even leave with crystals. He decides, oh, I'm gonna get her this one wish willow thing. Like, what is that even? If he was a good friend, he would have given her the one wish willow because then at least she would have had a cutesy gift for her writing career to get started. That would have showed that he actually cares for her and believes in her. But instead he's like, I guess I'm gonna use this one wish willow because I'm such a freaking shitbag. Oh my gosh, how could I not even say that I like her when she was like, Bear, do you like me? And I'm like, oh man, I couldn't. There was no opportunity to tell her I like her, so I just wish she fucking loved me more than anybody else in the entire world. Which I get it. You didn't know that the one wish willow was gonna work. That's completely fine. It's everything that you do after you know that the one wish willow is gonna work. That's what makes you a shitty person, Bear. So yeah, after the biggest fumble ever, like the freest alley-oop ever, and he just belts that shit out of the court, misses the goal entirely. I've been watching a lot of the Spurs, and they also lost. So with how much affection is showed, you can see that he cares more about the idea of Nikki being a partner to him rather than Nikki herself being his partner and helping him through everything. Because their relationship is so one-sided. Now, how one-sided would you say? Well, she's sort of just all over him. Like, you can tell that they didn't really even have a chance to get to know each other. When after the whole montage of them being together, you see in the restaurant that she's asking him what he wants to do for his work. You're telling me in that whole movie montage of them at work making out, them watching movies together, them cooking together, them sitting on the bed while one's on the computer, one's playing guitar together, you're telling me nothing ever came up about what he wants to do? So they've spent so much time over like this past, I'd assume, week or 2 weeks together, but nothing nothing about what you want to do in any of your ambitions, Bear, because he's an ambitious slob who doesn't take care of himself and doesn't give a frick about anybody else. So yeah, even Wish Nikki was like, hey, what do you do for work? He was probably about to fumble Wish Nikki too. He still, throughout this whole process, he feels like he's owed Nikki's affection. Even after making the wish, he feels like he should just alter the wish instead of actually wanting to cancel the wish. He doesn't care if he actually gets to date Nikki. He just cares if he has the appearance of dating Nikki, which is why he falls so quickly out of love with her too when Sarah starts putting moves on him, because he truthfully did not care about anybody but himself. The wish even knows it, because the wish starts changing Nikki's appearance to be that more like Sarah. You see the tattoos, obviously there's like the tattoo and everything, but another small detail they add is after Sarah gets bricked up by Nikki, the next day with all the tattoos drawn, she's like, why don't you love me? And then she smashes a brick into her head. Also show that he still likes Sarah more than this wish Nikki that he apparently wanted. That's how little he actually liked Nikki, because he was willing to give up on the actual Nikki. Frame one. Also, something completely wild. She literally fed him his, I don't know, like week-old dead cat. I don't know how long they were together, but that's like a week-old dead cat, right? It's got to be at least a week old. And he was chomping on that sandwich and didn't even notice anything until someone else pointed it out. And then he's like, oh, let me read this note. Oh shoot, I'm eating my cat. Ah, geez, my week-old dead cat. Nikki, you can't cook the cat, Nikki. Nikki, please don't cook the cat, Nikki. Anyways, can we go to the room now? Cause like, you know, I'm a little tired from work and like, I know you just fed me my dead cat that I loved a lot, but you know, I'm still down to clown if you are. Just saying. So yeah, you think he'd cancel the wish or try to at least cancel the wish there. No, he only starts canceling the wish when there's like a legit threat to his life. So he was completely willing for her to be like the worst version of herself, standing still, pissing on the carpet, shitting on the carpet. As long as she was still like good to go and can clean up her parties, he was fine with it. So Bear, you freaking suck. It also sucks seeing everyone else that was close to Bear just take the brunt of it for his own insecurities and selfishness. That's what led all three of his friends, his closest friends, to be in absolute shambles, to have the worst possible outcome for each of them because of his selfishness, insecurities. I think that's what the beauty of Obsession is. I think it really shows you how selfish somebody can be just for the idea of wanting somebody and not actually wanting to get to know them versus anything else. The discussions, the little details that the movie throws in, I believe that that's what makes this movie a great movie. It kind of reminded me with all the secret little things that the drama would throw in, with like little small details that you could pick apart. And even on a rewatch, or if you don't even rewatch it, you could just talk. That's what Obsession does as well, where you can just compare information, talk about the movie, and I think people really love that about movies. I think when the movie is a little too simple, it's very hard to keep the conversation going around these movies. That's what I thought about Obsession. It was a great movie. I definitely recommend to watch. If you watch this without watching the movie, it's still a good movie. I'd recommend watching it. I think it's still going to be a good watch, even if you know what's going to happen, because it's very obvious what's going to happen. But even though you know what's happening, the story and the execution of the story is really good. The horror in this movie is really good. I think that they do a really good job at redefining the genre and keeping it fresh. It's got an eerie presence as opposed to just generic spooky ghost horror movies that we see. Also, at the end of the movie, Nikki, she's going to prison for sure, but at least she's gonna have a lot of free time to write, and hey, she's gonna have a unique perspective to write from. Does suck that a man took away all of her autonomy though. That does suck. But by being in prison, she's at least free from the prison of Bear, and that one's just off the dome, straight off the dome at the end of the whole conversation here I just had. I cook a little. Yeah, that's right. I'm a chef. What can I say? That's enough rambling though. If you had any sort of thoughts, comments about the movie Obsession, let me know in the comments. If you notice anything that I didn't go over here that you'd want to bring to my attention about the intricacies of everyone's relationships, let me know in the comments. And if you like this video, please like it. There's potentially a hype button. I don't know what that is, but if you hype this video, you're also very cool. I don't know how you hype videos though. Like that's still weird to me. I don't know. That's my old head talking. I hope you enjoy that. Keep watching movies, stay fresh, and yeah, peace. Also, the letterbox is coming soon. I have been keeping all my movies written down this year. So I've been writing every single movie I've been going to see. So that way I can write reviews for them on Letterboxd and get that going. So then I could just link that here in YouTube as well. So that way people can really like all my movie stuff, just like talking about movies and stuff like that. Essentially, yeah, the things, I'll be getting into other stuff. Yeah. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Bye.